Hello, I'm Kristen Oaks-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Well, this week we complete our series of interviews with each of the candidates who want to be the next governor of Louisiana. The primary election will happen on October 14th, which is quickly approaching. Today, my partner Avery Davidson sits down with Louisiana's Attorney General, Jeff Landry.
Thanks, Kristen. We're continuing to meet all of the candidates running for governor of the great state of Louisiana, and we continue now with someone you know very well, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us on TWILA.
It's great to be here.
Well, I know you. We've been talking off and on for years since you were a congressman and even a little bit before that, but let everybody know your background, because you even worked on a farm at one time.
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time on a farm. Working on a sugar farm right out of high school with a number of my friends and relatives. I had a great uncle who had a sugar farm that brought cane to Iberia Co-op, but worked with the LaPerousas that brought cane to St. John and or Lasuka now. But enjoyed it, always enjoyed it. I always said that the job I had on the farm was the most relaxing. Wasn't always the easiest one, but it certainly was very fulfilling. So I know how hot it gets in the summer in Louisiana.
Did that make you change your mind on career choices
there?
Yeah,
you know, it's interesting because you know, when I was working with my cousin, he said, you know, you really should go to school, go to college. My mom and them wanted me to go to college. I didn't go to college. Right after I graduated, I'd gone into the National Guard, went to work on the farm. I just wanted to go to work and enjoyed being outdoors. And he kind of pushed me. He said, you know, at the time, USL had a great agricultural program. He said, if you like it that much, you should, you know, go, because the Guard was paying for college. It was it was the best opportunity for young men and women coming out of high school. You could join the National Guard. The Guard would pay free college tuition to any public university in the state, and all you had to do was sign up, do your weekend drills and do your summer drills. At least it was until they activated us for Desert Storm. But yeah, that was the program. And one real hot summer in July, when I remember we were basically dewatering the field, some new property, and I mean the grass was higher than me and you, and it was hot, and I was working with these folks. I was like, man, there got to be something better than this. It was hot in that grass. And so I said, well, maybe I'll give it a shot to go to college. But enjoyed it, really did enjoy it. Got many friends that are in the agricultural business, really appreciate the industry, understand that you can't have a free country unless you have a country that can supply itself with food. Well,
and then you went into law enforcement as well. How did that go from working in the farm field to military service to law enforcement to being an attorney?
Well, what happened was when I decided to go to college was when they activated us to go to war. And of course, in the National Guard, I was a military police officer, so I spent a year on active duty. And then when I got out, I said, well, there's no sense in going back on the farm. I had an opportunity to go work at a police department, and I realized you could work nights and then go to school during the day. And so I did that. And so I ended up working as a police officer, and then later as a sheriff's deputy as I was going to college. Then started a business with a friend of mine and did that for a while, so kind of put my education on pause, sold the business, finished up the education, and went to law school.
And then you ran for Congress, won that one term. What did that experience teach you that prepared you to be Attorney General?
Well, I don't know that anything can prepare you to be the Attorney General. I never, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, don't you want to be the Attorney General? I'd have said, what does the Attorney General do? You know, I think that the opportunity that I had in Congress, going in with such a big class at a time when there was a big conservative movement, the first big conservative movement that happened at the turn of the century, exposed me to a lot of things. Gave me an understanding and an appreciation about how dysfunctional Washington actually is. Of course, when Louisiana lost a congressional seat, which showed me no one felt outward migration more than me in my political career, because the seat that I held basically kind of went away, right? It pitted me against another member of Congress. The legislature had to choose. We had to go from 7 to 6. And then had an opportunity to run for Attorney General. They had actually, some people had approached me to run for Attorney General while I was in Congress. And I had passed because I felt that, look, when you ask the voters for a job, you have a duty to fulfill that job. And there are people that tend to move from one seat to another. It says, well, I can run for this seat and not give up the one I got. And that's a little bit dishonest because you've asked people to give you an opportunity to do a job. It's like a contract. And so that's what we did. We fulfilled that contract. And then after I was out and people came back to me, I decided to run, and it's been great.
Well, now you're asking for a new contract. You're asking for voters to make you governor of the great state of Louisiana. What made you decide, hey, I want to run for governor?
Well, my contract comes up this year. And so you're right. I had an opportunity to either I could run for re-election. I have the greatest job. There is no doubt that the people of the state of Louisiana have really given me an opportunity to serve as the Attorney General, and I believe it's been the greatest job I've ever had and really have enjoyed it. But I'm sick and tired. I've had enough of Louisiana being at the bottom of all of the list. I've heard the cries from people that have said, why can't we be as good as Mississippi and Arkansas and Georgia and South Carolina? I mean, we all aspire to be like Texas. It's a big state with a lot of people. That might be an unfair comparison, but we see so many young people moving out of our state rather than moving in at a time when people around the country are actually looking for places to go. So we see all of the states in the SEC, I call it the SEC, mm-hmm. It's easy for people to know where those states are. All of those states, except for Louisiana, have people moving into them rather than out of them, except Louisiana. And so I want an opportunity to change that. And I don't think it's that difficult to do. I think it takes leadership. And I think that we've given the people of Louisiana a great taste of the type of leadership that we've exhibited at the Attorney General's office, the things that we have done and fought for them over the last 8 years, shown them that we can do it responsibly and fiscally responsible and give them a great service and protect them. And so now we want an opportunity to take it to the next level. And this race isn't really about me. We said in October of last year when we announced that this race was not about me. It was about you. It was about the people who are watching, the people who are listening. What is it that they hope to see the state of Louisiana look like in 10 and 20 years? And so that's what this race is about.
One thing that has grown over the years has been agriculture. Agriculture is now an $11 billion a year industry for the state, a major economic driver. How does that play? How does agriculture play into your plans as governor should you be elected?
Oh, it plays a big role. Why? Because when people ask me about the three things that we want to focus on, one of those things is the economy. And what I think we have failed to do is to support the industries that built Louisiana. Look, agriculture is not new to Louisiana. Agriculture was one of the foundational industries that built this state. And so we should be looking at how we can improve our position, how we can expand our farming opportunities and our agricultural opportunities here in this state. And we want to focus on that. We want to focus on agriculture, on petrochemical, on our oil and gas, on our exports, imports, on the great waterways that connect the world and the country here in Louisiana. And I think that if we do that, if we focus and we talk to the people who built this state, the small business owners, the farmers, those that ply their trade here in Louisiana, and we help them to grow those businesses and those job opportunities, then I think everything else becomes organic. I think that the rest of the job growth becomes organic, and that's how we start to retain great people here in this state.
Well, we have 7 candidates who are all vying for the same seat, the governor's seat, 5 of whom are Republicans. You're one of them. How are you going to, or what sets you apart from the other Republicans, and how are you going to ensure that you are the one in the runoff?
Well, look, I don't worry about who else is in the race. I don't even have a count. I can tell you that in October of last year, we got into this race, and for 90 days, no one else got in. It was, well, I'm waiting to see if this one's running or that one's running, or what if this one's getting in. That tells me that those people aren't serious about running this state. Not a state that's 50th in all of the good list. What that tells me is that that's just political opportunities, but that's not what we're about. What we're about are the issues. We're about the message that we want to bring, the vision that we want to bring to the state of Louisiana as how we can lead this state. And something unique happened. In October, we got in, and in December, the state Republican Party, in a democratic process of which we have 230 elected Republican State Central Committee members, a vast majority of them heard from their constituencies, Republicans out there that said, we don't want to see the fighting in the past. We're going to pick a candidate, just kind of like the Democrats do, and we're going to go with that person. And they overwhelmingly supported me. And so we are the Republican-nominated candidate in this particular race. And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to give the people of this state exactly what I've heard many of them say is we don't want to see all those nasty attacks back and forth. What we want to talk about is issues, and that's what we're going to try to do. And that's what we're continuing to do. And that's the message that we're spreading out to October 14th, which is the election day in the primary.
Well, before we wrap up, I'm going to bring up one more issue. He was smart enough to marry a woman from New Iberia. So
that's what my father-in-law says.
So all great things come from New Iberia, Jeff.
Yeah, well, that's what the whole LeBlanc clan says too.
Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us here on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. Coming up after the break, we'll meet the final candidate to grace the set of TWILA, and that's Treasurer John Schroder. Stay with us.
I'm a steward of the land.
I am growing a better future.
I am feeding the world.
I'm making the world a better place.
I am resilient.
I'm essential, and I'm still farming.
I am essential.
I am still farming.
I am resilient.
I am essential.
I am still farming.
No matter what happens, we are still farming.
I am Farm Bureau.
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 We are Farm Bureau.
Thank you for staying with us here on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture as we continue to meet the candidates running for governor of the great state of Louisiana. Joining me now is someone who should be familiar to you, especially if you've received some of that unclaimed property, Treasurer John Schroder, who is also a Republican candidate for governor. Treasurer Schroder, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, look, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to even be in the mix. It's a very humbling experience, to be honest with you. I believe heavily in service and giving back, and just being in the process is exciting to us.
Well, let's talk about your life of giving back, as you mentioned. A little bit of your background. You were born in the New Orleans area, Jefferson Parish, but also served in the military. Tell us a little bit about your background before entering the political arena and going into the state legislature.
Yeah, it was a while. I'm 62. My wife and I have been married 38 years now. But I was born in New Orleans, raised in Jefferson Parish. I actually went to the North Shore in Tangipahoa when I went to Southeastern to play football, where I met my wife. She got a degree in education. I got a degree in criminal justice. Went in the Army right after that. It was under the time when Ronald Reagan was the president, and we were in a tough little economy, and it's a whole long story why and how I did it, but I did. I went in the Army and ultimately got into infantry, military intelligence, and then I became a CID agent and worked narcotics across several states, and it was a fun job. I enjoyed it, and as I tell people, it's not always about putting people in jail. I really enjoyed really engaging people and helping people because it's a bad problem in this country, and I did that in my 20s, and it's just as bad today as it was back then, and when President Reagan coined the phrase the war on drugs. But anyhow, in my late 20s, my retina hemorrhaged in my right eye. I was at the 101st Airborne Division, and everything was really rocking along really well. We both had our careers rolling and having kids, and but as I tell people, God had a different plan for me. We came back to Louisiana for a short while I began my construction business. I was a narcotics detective in Ascension Parish, and I did that for about 15, 16 months, and mostly undercover work because that's what I enjoyed doing. And then just decided one day we had our second child, and I was watching everything change. We went from carrying snub-nosed 38s to these crazy-looking things like 9 millimeters, and it was scary. It was scary back then. If you told somebody to stop on the street, they stopped, and very respectful, believe it or not. But so I saw the changes coming. I was there. So I got in the business world, and 32 years later, my wife and I have had a lot of small businesses. We do a lot of business with mom and pops. We're in the construction business. I'm in the real estate development business. We've been in the laundromat business, the tan and salon business, the grocery business. I mean, every small business at one time or another over the last 30 years, Ellie and I have participated. But then, I was about 47, 48 when term limits kicked in for the legislature for the first time. And I ran for that open seat in Covington in St. Tammany Parish, and representing St. Tammany and a good portion of Tangipahoa Parish. And I used to joke with my colleagues in the legislature that the majority of my district was rural agriculture land, from cattle and crops. And I've represented Covington, but that was about the extent of being in the city. So St. Tammany and Tangipahoa, very rural parishes, although we are a suburb, basically a bedroom community to New Orleans. But so we've spent our entire adulthood in business. My wife's a retired teacher and administrator. She's been building houses for the last 12 or so years, and we're very active. There's not too many things we haven't done in our community, and it's a privilege to serve. And I try to just, as I tell people, I like representing those that aren't represented. I come from the 85% rank, and we know what it is to live in Section 8 housing. And my first home when we got out the military, to tell you how much money you get paid when you're in the military, was in a trailer park in the sugarcane fields of Donaldsonville. And we couldn't afford nothing. But family helped us do that. But here we are. I sort of prove that it's not what you make, it's what you save. We've had a good career in politics. I've always taken the approach that I'm here to serve you and not be served, and that's really what drives me. Look, I said this earlier. I believe in community service, and that comes in a lot of different ways. Some are very private, some are very visible, and there's everything in between. And Ellie and I do that in many different fronts. But obviously, being a state treasurer is a little more visible than helping the poor people or doing whatever you do back in your communities. But I like representing the state and bringing a fiscal conservatism to the table, which you typically don't see, because I understand what the business people go through and have to invest $1 and earn that $1 back, plus to pay your bills and pay your mortgages and pay your employees, and then turn around and do it again. That's a unique feeling. It's a unique responsibility that you have to experience to know how that feels. So I know what the farmers go through. I know what all the people in business and the agriculture world are going through. It's volatile at times, and you can't control what goes on in government. What I try to do is bring some normality to it, and I treat it every bit like a business. And you hear people say that a lot, that government needs to run like a business. Well, in many respects it does.
You brought up about service and that being important to you. Is that why you decided to run for governor? Was there one little aha moment where you said, this happened, I need to be the one to help steer this state?
Well, look, I would never say I'm the one, okay? And it really had nothing to do with who else was in the race or anything like that, because heck, I didn't know who was going to get in the race. It really comes down to I spent 9.5 years in the legislature. I spent 8 years under Bobby Jindal. And as a conservative, a fiscal conservative, that's not political. That just means I don't spend every dollar I have, because in by my definition, if you have $1 and you spend $1, you're broke. If you have $1 million and spend $1 million, you're broke. Well, that's what government does. If you did that, if Farm Bureau did that, Farm Bureau wouldn't be in existence. Only government can exist in that, because they don't really answer to anybody. You know, they just get a new check every month or every year. But, you know, that experience taught me just how much government doesn't operate like you and I operate every day. And not just necessarily in a business, but how you run your household. If we would run government the same way we run our households or our businesses, we would be so far better off. But we don't. So, you know, I spent 8 years under Bobby Jindal, another 2+ under John Bell Edwards, until I decided to run for treasurer, because, look, I was the budget guy. I mean, if anybody wanted to know anything about the budget from a legislative perspective, they came to see me. And I studied my way and worked hard. I say worked hard. It was something I naturally gravitated to. I like the finances part. Even though my degree's in criminal justice, I tell people this is simple math. Simple mathematics. 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't equal 3. You know, so I gravitated toward that whole process. I pushed back hard on your behalf and the citizens' behalf, because somebody needed to. And I think the check and balance is important. You know, I think sometimes a little confrontation is important, as long as it's handled in the right way. There's never been a disagreement that I've had that I couldn't turn around and go sit down and have a glass of tea or a Coke Zero with somebody. You know, so relationship building is key. Working with each other is key, which I brought all those talents from the business world with me. And then, you know, when Senator Kennedy became U.S. Senator, you know, the treasurer seat was open, and I was interested in the finances of the state, and figured I'd have a better position to voice my concern. And look, I do, as the Constitution allows me the flexibility on the finances of the state, but I can't make anybody do anything. It's strictly influence. You know, and I'm the financial advisor, basically. And we have a team of people, and we advise the legislature. We advise those who want to listen, and you can't give somebody advice who doesn't want to hear the advice, or doesn't even want the advice. So, you know, but I enjoy that part. I am a numbers guy. You know, I tell people the state capitol wraps around one word. It's MONEY. We get sidetracked on a lot of different issues, but as you saw the legislative session that just ended, it's all about the money, sir.
Oh, talking about money, agriculture is an $11 billion a year industry for the state of Louisiana. As treasurer, you understand the importance of having those tax dollars roll over here in the state. Tell me a little bit about how agriculture would fit into your plan and vision for this state as governor.
You know, it's agriculture. I mean, arguably the biggest industry we have, and this is what I tell people all the time. If you're a farmer, if you're in a timber business, or you're in a seafood business, or whatever business you're in that you're basically living off the earth, it's important to you. And that's the attitude you sort of have to have. Your business is the #1 industry, whatever that is, you know, and I sort of take that approach. So, man, when you say agriculture to me, I think very broad, you know, from timber to farming. Now, my wife's from Iberville Parish, you know, all big sugarcane farmers. You know, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law's in Uso. So, you know, I'm not going to say I know everything about the farming business, but I've been going into White Castle for, 42 years now. So I know it's big, but it's big to every individual. It's big, and you have to sort of treat everybody equal. And I've worked real hard at doing that. You know, access is equal, The rules need to be the rules. But we really just want government out the way. You know, government has a role. I don't see government having an expanded role. My job, you know, I tell people I believe this state needs a CEO. Somebody goes to work every day, not to figure out what more government can do. I want to know, what do we need to do to help agriculture, to help the farmers, to help you know, the timber industry guys, just whatever. What do we need to do better? You know, and sit and listen. I don't have all the answers, but who does? I don't think you're going to find a governor that's an expert in agriculture, expert in the chemical industry and oil and gas and education and infrastructure and insurance. And I mean, I could go on and on. That person doesn't exist, you know, but you do need a CEO type who knows how to listen, who knows how to bring the assets to the table and figure out what do we need to do. You know, I would rely heavily on the agriculture community to tell the governor, hey, governor, this is what we need. This is how we get there. But look, we have to promote this state also, and I believe that we have to take care of the industries we have. We spend too much time talking about bringing industry in. Well, what about the industry we have here? What about our farmers today? They're mom and pop farm business people, no different than the guy opening a barbershop every day. So what are we going to do to get government out the way to help you and not hinder you? You know, the red tape is ridiculous. We're stuck in the Stone Age when it comes to technology. I want to see state government provide services to the taxpayers that are efficient and as least expensive as possible, and do it in a way that is a service and not a hindrance.
So there's a bit of a hindrance between you and the governor's seat right now, and that would be the fact that there are 6 other candidates in this race, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a runoff based on what that looks like. You're one of 5 Republicans. What will set you apart from the other 4 Republicans and allow you to make that runoff?
Well, look, that's going to be left up to the citizens of Louisiana, and I would just tell them, you know, you have to look at holistically at 62 years old, the experiences that Ellie and I bring to the table, because this is really about teamwork. And I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for my wife, Ellie. I mean, she's a rock star in herself. I told her one day after watching all the commercials, I walked in her office one day. You know, she runs her construction company. I say her construction company. I told her, maybe you ought to run for governor. She laughed at me because Ellie's talent is just well beyond the average person. So this is about teamwork, and this is about what my wife and I bring to the table, because it is important that the wife has a role. So I think holistically, I think our experience, I think my military background, my law enforcement background with certainly the crime problems we're having today, my degrees in criminal justice, I know crime at a high level. And you know, I hold myself to a high standard. I believe heavily in accountability, which you have to have through transparency, and I've walked that walk. You know, you can get on Google tonight and read. You're not going to find any articles on Treasury, any negative articles or in our companies. We've done it the right way. You know, it's been a tough road to hoe, but that's what the majority of people go through. I want to represent the majority of people, which I don't believe is happening, and which is why one of the reasons I'm sitting here. You know, it's the 85 percentile that make this state run. And I know what their plight is. I know what the plight of business is because I've done it. I've invested $1. I haven't talked about it. I've done it behind the scenes every day for the last, I don't know, I'm 62. Obviously, I wasn't in business when I was 2, but I mean, obviously for the last 32, 33 years in business, I had a 7.5, 8-year career in law enforcement and the military. It's a lot of experience with Homeland Security and hurricanes and making decisions. And making decisions in high-profile situations where life is at stake. Okay, I've done all that. So I believe I have the experience. It's just a matter of what the public wants. If you want somebody who's going to go to work every day, as I tell people, it's like going to work 5 Mondays or 6 Mondays a week, because that's how I work. Every day is a Monday in my world. And I enjoy it though, and I don't need anything from anybody. I don't believe in transactional politics, meaning I want to change the perception of politics in general, where it's a pay to play, because it is. And I will stop that. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't believe in transactional politics where you do this, I'll do that for you. Or, you know, we just need to do whatever's right for the citizens of the state. That's what I bring to the table. You know, my promise is that every decision I make will be based on one thing: what is best for the citizens of Louisiana, period. Not what's best for me, not what's best for you and your industry, but what is best for the citizens of this state. And if you just stay focused on that and pay attention to what the needs are for other people and work on that daily, we can get there. Well, you know.
We have until October 14th for sure. Thank you so much. He is Treasurer John Schroder, candidate for governor for the great state of Louisiana. And you'll have a chance to meet the candidates at the Louisiana Farm Bureau Convention held in New Orleans during the gubernatorial forum. We'll have information about that on our website at twilatv.org. Be sure to stay with us, because coming up next, we're going to introduce you to a teacher who really knows how to grow an education. The TWILA Boost is next. Stay with us. While the Louisiana Farm Bureau Convention is coming up, there's another annual meeting right before it. The Louisiana Mayhaw Association Annual Conference is Saturday, June 17th at the Mega Shelter at LSUA in Alexandria. Registration is available the day of the convention beginning at 8 a.m. and is open to the public, even if you're not growing mayhaws. LMA President Andy Thompson says there will be seminars on hybridization and growing mayhaws, as well as elections for new officers.
It's going to start at 9. We invite everybody to come that's interested in mayhaws, either making jelly or growing trees. Come see us. We'd love to educate you on the tree.
We'll have a link to the Mayhaw Association's website on our website, twilatv.org. While it may not be mayhaw season, it is still crawfish season. Prices have come down quite a bit since the peak of the season, which may be good for you, but not so great for our farmers and wild-caught fishermen. Here are some spots where you can still get crawfish. The Chenier Shack restaurant in Monroe has live crawfish for $2.25 per pound, while boiled crawfish are running at $2.95. In Lake Charles, live crawfish are $2.65 a pound at Bork's Fresh Seafood, and boiled are going for $3 even. Finally, if you're headed to New Orleans for the Farm Bureau Convention, you can get live crawfish at Colada Seafood for $1.99 per pound, and boiled are available for just $1 more at $2.99 per pound. Now, these crawfish prices are brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, which reminds you to always eat Louisiana crawfish, and to make sure, ask before you eat. Now it's time for the TWILA Boost, a little something at the end of the show to make you feel better about your day. And what can be better than winning? Well, how about winning for helping children better understand how agriculture plays a part in their daily lives? That's why one Vermilion Parish educator is the Louisiana Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year.
It's harvest time at Renee A. Rost Middle School in Kaplan.
Perfect.
6th grade science and social studies teacher Hannah Hebert and her students tend to the pirate garden. It's just one of the tools Hebert uses to teach core subjects using agriculture.
I think agriculture is very important in our life, and especially in a rural Vermilion Parish. A lot of families do farming, or you see farming happening. So it's important for kids to understand where their food is coming from, how it's grown, and all the struggles that farmers go through in order to get you the food you need. It's not very easy to just get a meal on your table.
In the classroom, Hebert has students learn that soil is not dirt. She does so with a small composting project where the students can see earthworms at work.
Ag is important. It's not just another lesson.
Hebert then has students step up the learning by going bigger with this composter. While Hebert is well versed in agriculture now, her passion for it developed later in her education.
I was never in 4-H. I was never in FFA in high school. I was in everything else, all the academic clubs. And it wasn't until I went to college for agribusiness that I fell in love with agriculture, and my professors were very passionate, and so they passed that passion on to me. So I figured, hey, not everybody understands this.
By helping these students understand agriculture, Hebert got the attention of Vermilion Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom Chair Jamie Lee.
Hannah really understands the concept that teaching about agriculture can be so much more than just planting a seed. In her science classes, she does a really great job of, starting with soil science, talking about compost systems, and then she really brings it full circle with her pirate garden cook-off activity. where her students were able to use what they picked in their garden to prepare a meal with community members for their family and friends, which was really amazing to see.
It's for those reasons that Avery is being recognized as the 2023 Louisiana Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year, something that caught her by surprise.
I was very shocked. I was very excited that I won because it's something I've been wanting to earn since I started teaching and learned about Ag in the Classroom 5 years ago. So I was like, let's see if I can get this one day. I just feel like it's a testament to all my hard work, and it helps to show other teachers that, you know, doing a little bit extra, going above and beyond really does pay off. And it's more than just an award. It's getting the students to understand, like, hey, if you put in hard work, you'll get recognized, and it's going to pay off.
Avery receives an all-expenses-paid trip to the National Ag in the Classroom Conference in Orlando, Florida, an Apple iPad, and $500 cash, all courtesy of the Louisiana Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. She'll also be honored during the awards program at the 101st Louisiana Farm Bureau Convention in New Orleans on June 22nd. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Next week, we'll be at the Louisiana Farm Bureau Convention in New Orleans, and we'll have all that coverage for you on our next episode. While we're there in New Orleans, you can keep up with what's going on at our convention on our social media channels. So be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And you can always find us on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when we put something new out there. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.